Hi everyone. It's so great to be with you in this final week of our First Timothy series, week 8. Can you believe it? I want to just let you know about a couple things before we focus in on 1 Timothy chapter 6. As you know, we're finishing up this series this week, and then our next church-wide series, when we're going to be providing small group material, will be in the month of May. So there's a little bit of a gap in between. Your group is welcome to do whatever you would like to do, whether that's taking a break, maybe you're traveling over Easter or spring break, maybe you want to do another kind of study or just meet for prayer and fellowship, whatever is right for your group. We're also making our spiritual practices curriculum available to you if you would like to do one of these 4-week groups just with your group alone. We're glad to provide that for you. We've got Sabbath, prayer, solitude, fasting. Any one of those is something your small group could do. Your leaders have more details on how you can get your hands on that. But in May, we're going to be again providing weekly discussion questions. We'll do videos like this again. There won't be a full study guide for that series, but glad for your group to come back together as we look at what we're calling the lost words of Jesus. This will be a series in the book of Luke. We'll be looking at those parables about the lost coin, the lost sheep, and of course, the lost son, the prodigal son. Looking forward to that series very much, the 4 weeks of May. I also want to just put a quick bug in your ear about our summer opportunity. We're going to be offering our Practicing the Way course, the spiritual formation course. It's an 8-week class. We're going to do an edition of this on Sundays in the evenings, probably at 5:30. We're still nailing down the exact time, but shooting for that 5:30 time frame. It's not something that your whole small group has to participate in, but if your group would like to do this, we will reserve a table for this class just for your group, because here's what we're thinking. We know that over the summer, a lot of small groups kind of disband. People are traveling, they're in and out. It's hard to figure out who's going to host this week, who's around, and all of that. So we're going to set up a table for any small group who would like to do this class together. And if you're in town, great. Come on by the church, get a chance to go through this material with your friends, be able to process it together. Maybe you even want to make a night of it, come for the class, and then bring a picnic supper and enjoy a beautiful summer evening on the church grounds, or go out for supper afterwards. It'll just be an opportunity for your group to continue to have some connection together that we would love to facilitate for you here at the church. The class is also open to anyone who's not part of a small group too, and we're hoping it will be a wonderful way for people to make some better connections at the church while growing in your spiritual formation. But 1 Timothy 6, boy, we have seen some heavy things in this book, haven't we? We have learned so much as we've walked through these 6 chapters of Paul's letter to Timothy. We've seen things about false teaching and distorted gospel messages and addressing that. We've seen what to do with people who are being disruptive in their worship styles. Of course, we've tackled the women in leadership topic in depth. We've looked at qualifications for leaders. We've talked about how to show honor to leaders and what to do with leaders who are acting in a dishonorable way. And now as we arrive at the final chapter in chapter 6, we continue to have some pretty deep, meaty topics. We've looked at the issues of the tensions caused by slavery and the way that slaves and masters would relate to each other in the church, and then focused in on money. Now, deep in this concept of looking at an appropriate view of how we use our money, really at the heart of it is the issue of contentment. And contentment is something that all of us long for, right? It's a universal desire of the human heart. And it's a desire whether we're young or old, whether we are flush with cash in our bank account or all flushed out. We're all searching for contentment. And our culture is constantly feeding us this lie that we can find contentment if we just have a little bit more. Someone apparently asked Rockefeller, back in one of the wealthiest men in the early 20th century, how much money it would take for him to feel satisfied. You know what his answer was? Just a little bit more. It doesn't matter, even if you have as much money as Rockefeller, you still want just a little bit more to try to feel satisfied. And contentment gets at that longing. Now we can reject this lie of our culture telling us if we just get more, if we're just a little wealthier, if we just have a little bit more stuff, more experiences, maybe more opportunities, more ways to feel joy or happiness, that will do that for us. But we know it's empty, right? We know that the things that we add into our life might bring us some temporary happiness, but that happiness wears off. and it leaves us just wanting more. As we grow in our spiritual formation, as we become people who want to be with Jesus and who want to become like him, we can learn the secret to contentment. We can be, like Paul said in Philippians 4, people who have learned what it is to be content in every circumstance, whether in plenty or in want. As we become like Jesus, as we practice his way, there are ways that we can grow, as verse 6 of 1 Timothy 6 says, to be people who are practicing godliness with contentment and discovering that to be great gain. And a gain that is permanent, not the temporary high that we get from the way that our culture is trying to push us to find contentment, but lasting contentment. In the message, I gave you 2 practical skills to look at and to consider adopting in your life as you're seeking to find this kind of godliness with contentment. And those practices are the practices of simplicity and generosity. And these 2 practices are so wonderfully complementary. Simplicity is this idea of drawing a line in the sand and saying, enough is enough. It's giving us an intentional way to live, to know what to add into our life and what to subtract from it, so that we can have margin for what's really important to us. In the message, I gave you some questions to think through about before you make a new purchase, or maybe sign up for another activity, or the things that we're trying to add into our life, to think through, is this going to help me become the person in Christ that I want to be? Or is this something that's going to recharge my soul? Or is this something that will facilitate the kind of relationships that are important to me? If the answer is yes to those questions, that might be a wonderful thing to focus on. If the answer is no, well, then it's a little bit more clear-cut that might be something that you would put away. I'd love your small group to think through this concept a little bit more about simplicity and about being intentional about what you choose to purchase, what you choose to fill your time with, so that you can build some margin in your life for what's really important. Maybe come up with some of your own questions that you might think through that are relevant to you in your situation, for how to know if you want to make a certain purchase, if you want to pursue an opportunity, choose to spend the way or how you want to spend your time. The thing that we see with people who are great at practicing simplicity is they build up all kinds of space, all kinds of margin, both in their bank accounts as well as in their calendar, for how they can use their resources. And so the practice of generosity is a beautiful thing to do with that extra margin of these resources. And so again, with your group, think about what you would do, what opportunities you could maybe take advantage of to practice generosity with your resources. And I don't just mean financial resources, but of course that's a great way to practice generosity. But think through too, even how could you show generosity of spirit in the way that you care for other people or give your time to. Well, I hope your group enjoys this final discussion and that these practices of simplicity and generosity will be life-giving to you in developing your spiritual formation. Enjoy.